Today on Cryptic Mass Guitar, we compare the most affordable Epiphone Les Paul with humbuckers to the most affordable Epiphone SG. Now, more than likely, you're watching this video here because you're trying to decide between the Les Paul or the SG for either your first, second, third, or, you know, if you're part of the modding community, you just want to know what guitar you might buy next. I'm going to be going over 5 different sound samples. We're going to start out with clean, going over the bridge, middle, and neck positions. And then we're going to go through different sounds, ending on full-on metal. But I really recommend that you play these guitars for yourself and see which ones work best for you. Because even though these are very similarly spec'd, they feel different. They feel different to your body, they feel different to your hands. So go to the store, play the guitars yourself, play every guitar in the store and see which one works best for you. And that's how you want to choose it. Not because of, you know, what a dummy like me may have said or how I may have made a guitar sound. But let's start out with those sound samples. All right, so now that we've heard the 5 sound samples in the comparison against the Epiphone Les Paul Special Satin E1 and the Epiphone SG Special Satin E1, let's talk about the specs, so the similarities and the differences, and then I'm just going to talk about how each guitar kind of feels in your lap and stuff like that, and just different things about the guitars. So both of these guitars have satin finishes to them. The SG here feels like smooth paper, like a Chinese Jackson, and the Les Paul feels, it doesn't feel rough, but it's definitely not as smooth as the SG. Both have poplar bodies. The SG is slightly thinner, and it also has a carved body. The Les Paul is a special model. So what a special model means is they take a regular Les Paul that it usually has a mahogany back on it, and then it has a separate piece of carved maple that's on the top. So that goes on top of that. This doesn't have that maple top on it, so it's called a slab body because it's the back of the Les Paul and not the front. Both have the same pickups in the 700T and the 650R. The pickups, because these are both like, they're entry level, so they do treat them as so. So basically they're a little hollow sounding. It's like they're lacking some of the mid clarity without actually coming across as scooped. Can you make that work for you? Absolutely. You can dial in your amp to get some very favorable tones. However, in comparison with other pickups that don't have the hollow sound to them, it's definitely something that's noticeable, and when you switch from one guitar to another, you kind of have to adjust your EQ. Both have the Epiphone lock tone tune-o-matic and stop bar for the bridge. These two here, they were fine until I adjusted the intonation, which you quite often have to do with new guitars because guitars are shipped to different areas, whether they're hot or cold or whatever. So they don't usually set up fully the guitars because they may not stay that way, and when they get somewhere, it's just like not doing the setup. So after doing the adjustment of the intonation, the bridges start to buzz. Both have unnamed pots, so I like to call them the 10-cent no-name pots. Both are very responsive, so you're not going to have any issues with the potentiometers. It also has one volume and one tone rather than two volumes and two tones, which you can do a lot of blending things, especially I find on leads. When you're putting in the middle position, you can kind of dial back on the volume in each, so you can't really do that with these guitars. Both also feature non-restrictive bolt-on necks. The necks are both mahogany necks. However, I have seen both of these listed as poplar, but I'm pretty sure they're mahogany. Both also feature 22 frets with dot inlays, and Epiphone, when it comes to what material they use for their fretboards, Gibson kind of does the same as well. So this is listed as Akame. It is Akame. This is listed as rosewood, and this is Akame. But rosewood, they kind of use it as like rosewoody material. So if it's sort of in the rosewood family or distant cousin or something like that, like laurel I believe is, or granadillo, they'll just list it as rosewood because like they can. The necks are also similar here. Both of these have the slim taper neck and they have the D shape profile, so it's a little thicker, which is good because in comparison to the SG standard that I rented, that was a slim taper and it was very flimsy, and you could feel the neck moving a little bit. The Les Paul, however, can come with a C shape slim taper or the D shape in it. I don't know why that is, but that's just a thing. Both have the silk screened Epiphone logo. The SG has the SG logo on the truss rod cover, whereas the Les Paul has the Les Paul Special silk screened on the headstock. And the tuners. Oh boy, the tuners. Tuners, just so you know, they're not expensive and they're very easy to replace yourself. These are the premium covered tuners. And to me, they're very, very flimsy. And they, unfortunately, not all the time, and hopefully not with every single one of them. However, it does seem quite often when I'm changing the tuning and stuff like that, it requires like a quarter turn almost before it starts to grab the string. So your fine tuning isn't out the window, but it'll take a little longer. Now, they're also, both of these guitars, the only guitars that I've ever had that experience the G string issue. So what everyone goes on about is the break angle of the strings coming out of the nut to the tuners. So what often happens is the G string will go out of tune quite like a lot. I don't usually have that issue. What I do is I tune up to pitch, never down to pitch. And then once everything's fully tuned, I tug on my strings. I just go like that. What that does, it pulls tension in like from the post here, so it's not like slack or anything like that. And it reseats it in the nut, so it kind of moves it around in the nut and stuff like that. And from there, I tune up to pitch again, because everything at that point should go flat after you've pulled it. And then I tug on them again, and then I tune it again. Usually I do that 3 times, and I'm good for tuning for all my strings for usually like an hour, 2, 3, 4 hours, stuff like that. So unfortunately with these, I kept having to tune the G string when I was bending them. that's enough on the specs. Let's look at each individual guitar to give you at least my perspective on how they feel in your lap and stuff like that. Now, as far as the Les Paul Special here, it's sort of well balanced here. You know, the headstock does dive a little bit. I don't care about strap. Buy a leather strap and you won't have to worry about neck dive, especially when we talk about the SG. But it's rather comfortable. It does, like I said, dive a little bit when you have it rested on your lap. The fret access, in order to get to the 22nd fret here, there's a cutout. That's why they call it a single cut. And it's not totally uncomfortable to get to the 22nd fret. However, it's not like super, super, super easy. But you'll be able to do it with a little bit of practice, just so you know where to get things. When we're talking about a tune-o-matic here, if you feel like your strings are too loose when it's like in E standard or whatever tuning, if it feels like it's too loose and you want a little more tension, just lower the stop bar here, kind of not as low as it can go, but quite low to the body, and that'll pull a little more tension. So just a quick tip. And as far as the volume and the tone here, it's in a good position. A little like lower to you. I know it's off camera here to get to it, but it's, if I'm switching my toggle switch or something like that, or if I'm just trying to do volume swells, it does seem pretty natural to do so. And of course the body, it has the contour, the upper contour here. There's no back or belly carve or anything like that, which is good. I'm not a big fan of those on Les Pauls, but it's very comfortable to hug it into your body, cradle your boob on it or whatever you want to call it, but it is a very comfortable guitar to play. The SG here is just like any other SG. Very light body, and the neck dives. Again, get a leather strap and it just don't join in on the hole, but it has neck dive. That's stupid. As far as access to the 22nd fret, very comfortable. It's a double cutaway guitar with the devil horns, of course. And it has a little more access to the 22nd fret here. Of course, with the thinner, the carve here, it's a little thinner too, so it's a little less restrictive, but you'll always have to get in a little bit more practice to kind of get to the 22nd fret. The body itself, it's like the guitar is pushed forward in comparison to the Les Paul. So especially with this, the cutout here for your boob, the cradle for your boob. If I were to put my arm here, I would still be touching the Les Paul. On the SG, it's slightly, move forward here. So with this position, your arm will kind of go around the body a little. And of course, the volume and tone are in a different position here. The toggle switch is a little lower, and we're kind of looking at a straight angle here rather than, things being pushed up forward on the Les Paul. So if you're doing your volume swells, it's definitely different than doing it on the Les Paul. It's not completely out of the way, but it'll take you like that extra millisecond to get to it. But if this is the guitar that you choose and you do volume swells and stuff like that, easy to do. And just a quick tip, it is a little more kind of harder to get to with your pinky. So like if you start getting into lead work and stuff like that, that's when you generally start, adjusting your tone with your pinky while you're in between notes and stuff like that. It's definitely a little harder to do on the SG. All that being said, that's the total comparison. That gives you just a little bit more perspective, a little more information. But again, I really, really recommend don't blindly buy these guitars online. Just go and see which one works for you. The bond that you have between yourself and the guitar is very, very, very important. It's much more important than sound. If you don't like the sound of these guitars, you can pay people to put more different pickups in these. You can pay people to just do different routings where, you can get different tonal options. You can put 2 volumes in this or 2 tones or whatever you want to kind of get around that. But it's really hard to want to play a guitar that's uncomfortable to you. And it's really easy if that guitar is super comfortable to you. So play everything in the store, make them let you play the expensive ones. It'll let you know what guitar to shoot for, what guitar to buy. And of course, if you don't have the budget for it, it's the one to aim for. You know, that's my dream guitar on the wall there. I played it for a while and man, it felt so comfortable. That's the way to do it. Thanks for watching.